Hello everybody, welcome to OCHD and welcome to another Jumputi Heroes predictions video. Continuing in our mini-series, part 2, we'll be talking about the characters I would like to see for this upcoming Christmas event and sort of speculate what I might expect for maybe theming or the direction they might take us in with this Christmas event. So to get started, let's put up the roadmap again. The important thing to notice here, more so than the fact that they have officially announced one of the characters that'll be in this event, which is Kirizu. We don't know a lot about that other than they have shown the character. But it does say a new type of event for Christmas. Now this could mean new type of stage, like, you know, a new Genkai battle type thing, you know, some kind of new type of content, or it could mean a whole new thing like sensei features when those were introduced back in whichever Christmas it was, 2019 I think, or when dual alliance festivals, whatever they are, Grand Alliance festivals, when that was introduced earlier this year. It could mean like that, and I think a lot of people have assumed it'll be something like that, but we don't really know. So in the case of my predictions, I think it will be something like that. I think it will be something along the lines of a new type of ensemble event, and based on all we have to go off of being this Kirizu sensei, I've gone for the most basic answer, which is this Kirizu is from a popularity poll, so why don't we have an event that is themed around popularity polls? To go a little bit deeper than that though, I think we have a lot of costumes and a lot of special colour pages of characters that aren't represented in Jumputi, even though it is supposed to be like this big ensemble celebration of Weekly Shonen Jump. It's a bit weird that we haven't seen much of that. Admittedly, there are some costumes from earlier in the game, or some seasonals that are from those colour pages, but the thing is they've kind of moved away from that as time's gone on, possibly because the way they released those characters early on wasn't particularly profitable for them. Not to mention the fact that when it comes to making these ensembles, you kind of need to make it worth summoning for. Otherwise, like, the way you make money on this game outside of summoning is just from sales packs. They did try to monetize sales packs when they introduced pearls. You could purchase pearls to get costumes, but there weren't enough costumes to make it worthwhile, and most people were just able to buy them all up after a while with the very few pearls we got from events. What they really needed to do was, well, I don't know what they needed to do, to be honest, but I feel like other games have found a way to make it work and they haven't. So whether they find a way to make costumes work in the future, I don't know. But in this case, I think we would be talking about new characters. I think this Kirizu will be a new character. And this doesn't necessarily need to just apply to popularity polls. You know, it can apply to like cover pages and color spreads and crossover chapters and stuff like that. And I think maybe this could be a new type of event, but this could be the first of its kind, specifically talking about popularity polls, but the other ones could talk about other things. I think that would be interesting. And yes, starting us off, we have Kirizu, and it makes sense. It makes sense that she would be added if this was indeed a popularity poll based event. We don't know that it is, but if it was, she completely dominated the votes. She got more votes than all the other girls combined, and she's not even really like, you know, like when the series starts, the two main girls are introduced as like vying for candidacy, and then they slowly introduce other characters. She's not even necessarily introduced in the same way the other girls are, as sort of like a love interest. She's introduced as like the evil teacher sort of thing. But as time goes on, the Japanese fans, they just couldn't get enough of her. They just couldn't. And her votes, I think that is one of the most dominant victories in the history of Shonen Jump popularity polls, especially for a horror manga, for like a romance manga, for her to have done so well. Yeah, that's kind of crazy. So she makes sense as our first pick. Whether she'll be a limited or a standard gacha, I don't know. I don't know, but yeah, she definitely makes sense. My first pick that I would add is Karma from Assassination Classroom. Now you may actually recognize that we already have this Koro Sensei costume in the game. It was from like the special cross-dressing of it. What was it called? MissCon, the MissCon event. We already have that in the game. Even though the version that they show in the image isn't that version of Koro Sensei, but you know, they had a little bit of fun with those characters, and I think we all appreciate that. But actually, as you can see from this vote, well, there weren't a lot of votes. I think this was quite early on. Alma actually came number one. He was number one, which was surprising. He beat the protagonist, he beat the titular character, he got the number one spot, and you know what? We do need a Karma gacha version, you know? The version we've got is so old, he's like a transcendent class unit, he's lost most usability at this point. A gacha version of Karma, I think, would slap. That would be so good. And, you know, in talking about popularity polls, I'd like to mention that Assassination Classroom was voted for by the players of Jumputi in an official poll to be a series that got more content, and it got very little as a result of it. So, would be nice to see it just get at least a little bit more. Next up, a pick that I think most people will agree isn't likely to happen. Kumagawa Misogi from Medica Box. Again, dwarfing the competition to get the number one spot. Just became so popular at a certain point in the series. And understandable. He's a good character. I like him. This particular one I'm showing on screen, he's not necessarily in any special costume or anything. He's just very happy to be number one. Everyone else is in a special costume, and that's because that's what he would want. That's what he would want. And you know what? He deserves it. He deserves a new version in the game. I know we've got a standard gacha one from the launch of the game, might I add. So old. Medica Box has had so little content. Nothing since like year one, I think. So long since we've had some Medica Box content. You can make him gacha. You can make him free to play. Do whatever you need to do to put a new Kumagawa in the game. I know sometimes we've said, oh yeah, we could have like a limited Kumagawa, and we could have this and that from Medica Box. At this point, us Medica Box fans, we will take the scraps. We will take whatever you have left. I don't care if you're underselling characters. I don't care if characters are super powerful and you're making them look not so. I just don't care anymore. I want some Medica Box characters in my Jumputi, and I don't think that's a lot to ask for. Next up, an interesting one, because we've kind of already done this before. Katsuki Bakugo from My Hero Academia. Now, he has won quite a lot of popularity polls in My Hero Academia. In fact, the only one he hasn't won was the first popularity poll. And even though the developers wouldn't be able to know this, because in theory they make the characters way ahead of time, he has actually won the most recent popularity poll as well. So we should get a new version of Bakugo. I know we had the dual unit earlier in the year with Kugayuma. That's cool. Give me a standalone Bakugo. He can be limited, he can be gacha, he can be free to play. Again, much like Misogi, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. This is a popular character, okay? Like, looking back at the other stuff, you know, Assassination Classroom, that was early on. Didn't get that many votes because it was an early popularity poll. Towards the end of Medica Box, Kumagawa was one of the most popular characters out there. Again, nothing compared to Bakugo, who has just been storming the popularity polls for years. He is the #1 undisputed most popular. When I said we've sort of been here before, we have a popularity poll costume for Bakugo. Version 1 Bakugo, you can get him dressed up in, I guess it was like, it was supposed to be like medieval style costume, but they sort of made him into a dog boy, cat boy, dog boy, I don't know. Doesn't matter. The point is, because he's won so many times, there's actually a few different options you can pick from, and I think this costume on screen from last year, that would work quite well for our little Bakugo as a new standard gacha. I think standard gacha. Well, a free-to-play one would be cool as well, wouldn't it? I don't know. I'm fine either way. Speaking of storming through the popularity polls, we also have Monkey D. Luffy. This one's a bit obvious, but Luffy is it's just ridiculously popular, and I'm not even talking necessarily within the context of One Piece, which of course he is popular, but just generally, so popular. One Piece has been going for so many years. Luffy's just always number one. I kind of had to touch on it if we're talking about popularity polls. We could do with a new standard gacha Luffy. Admittedly, this particular version, the way he's dressed up there with the black cloak, the black coat, not cloak, is a bit more like the Wano Luffy, the Onigashima Luffy, and I think a lot of people are thinking that's going to be a new limited Luffy at some point, so maybe a limited, I don't know, but it's a cool Luffy from one of these spreads. And I mean, we don't have to be restricted to just what is shown in the actual popularity poll results. Like, you could use it from other spreads, but you could justify the character's inclusion based on the results. Like you could say, oh well, yeah, Luffy won the popularity poll like every year, so here's a copy of him from one of the million art spreads that Eiichiro Oda has done, and boom, there you go, you've got an event. I feel like I just had to include him here. Again, it's a bit of a boring pick because it's like, oh, another Luffy, blah blah blah, but you know, he's just always number one. And they did that massive vote that was just like everyone in the world, and Luffy's still number one. So it is what it is. But next up, we have another insanely popular character, and that is Zenitsu from Kimetsu no Yaiba, surpassing all expectations, I think, when he became number one. A lot of the people in the West have mixed feelings about him. There's a lot of feeling of, similarly to Sanji, the way he acts towards women, not very nice. The way he holds himself in a lot of situations, not very good. But once you get deep in the manga, some of that stuff goes away. And I won't talk about it too much because it is big spoilers. But my guy becomes a man. He becomes a man. And, well, the Japanese fans clearly like that, because boom, straight to number one. He became so popular, in fact, that he actually got a number of votes in the Promised Neverland popularity poll. He actually got put ahead of some actual characters in that story because of the votes he got. He had the same amount of votes as the author of the manga. That is how popular Zenitsu became during that period. So it's pretty good. it's pretty good. Obviously, that's just Zenitsu standing there. That's not a costume or anything. But I think, considering what's going on in the anime right now, and they will have known ahead of time what would be happening in the anime during this period, and considering a certain character we're expecting to show up next year, it would make a lot of sense to have the entertainment district version of Zenitsu with him dressed up as the Oiran. Perhaps free-to-play? We don't have a free-to-play Zenitsu. We have a gacha, we have a limited, they're both very nice. Perhaps a free-to-play Zenitsu to go with our free-to-play Inosuke and free-to-play Tanjiro. I think that would be alright, don't you? I think that would be pretty good. If you know, I know we talk about Kimetsu no Yaiba a lot in our predictions, but look, I'm just playing the odds game here. The chances of them adding some Kimetsu no Yaiba stuff is very high. I'm sorry, that's just how it is. Let's swiftly move on to another newer series, Dr. Stone. Gen Asagiri is our pick here. He's standing at the back in this image, but that's because that's sort of the costume I think he would be very cool to appear in. Winner of Dr. Stone's 3rd popularity poll, which is interesting because it was the first international poll. So it's the first time readers were able to vote not only from picking up a physical copy of Shonen Jump and entering the normal way, they were also able to vote if they were reading on the Viz app or on the Shonen Jump app or any of that stuff. They had the opportunity to share their vote, and all the votes were tallied together, and Gen Asagiri comes out as number 1. I think this would be a cool little free to play. I mean, we got the standard gacha one. I don't really expect him to get a limited at any point, so just a standard gacha, a free to play Gen, maybe like a transcendent or something. I think that would be quite nice. A nice little costume, not too bad. Next up, another sort of maybe a little bit boring pick. We have Kuzuo Saiki. But the reason I bring this one up is because it's one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen. They had a popularity poll, which they just didn't announce. They were just like, oh, let's have a popularity poll. Oh, here's the results. And it was like, what do you mean here's the results? No one's voted yet. It's like, oh, well, actually, instead of doing a public vote, we just asked a bunch of the author's friends and family, and that's the vote. And, yeah, 46 votes. 46 votes for a Shonen Jump manga. Even like a new series would be able to get 46 votes. But they literally just asked people that the author knew. And yeah, Saiki came out on top with 12 votes. So I think it'd be interesting to have this Saiki. We do already have a free-to-play Saiki. We do already have a sort of special costume Saiki. So this is a bit of a boring pick, especially because we got a new Saiki this year as standard gacha. But I like King Saiki. I like it. And I thought this was just... I felt like I had to mention this because this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Just a popularity poll from... That's like if I held a popularity poll on OCHD and I was like, oh yeah, and that's the most popular character in the series with fucking 12 votes. It's so stupid, but kind of funny. And we couldn't mention popularity polls without mentioning Sakata Gintoki. Another very interesting case because he wins the popularity polls. That's what he does. This man wins. That's all he does. And we've had a few of those already. So, you know, that's a given. But I think Gintama is the only series to dedicate an arc to the popularity poll. And if you've ever read or watched that arc, it's quite funny. And I think it's fair to say that if you were doing a popularity poll event, having the series that has an arc dedicated to it would make a lot of sense, and it would be a good way to make one of the events in the game. You could have it like all the different scenes from that that particular arc, or you could make your own scenes. There's no restrictions. You can do what you want. I think it'd be interesting. I think it'd be very interesting. The one I've shown here is from the cover of part of that arc. I think it's like the second chapter of that arc. Gintoki is on the cover, looking rather dashing. So I would quite like to see him added. We could do with a new standard gacha Gintoki. I know we've mentioned a lot of characters could be standard gacha here, but we kind of already got a free-to-play Gintoki. But I mean, maybe we could do with another one because the other one is sort of seasonal locked. So sure, free-to-play maybe. I don't know. Finally, we have one that I don't think has a good chance of being added, but I'd mention it because it does do something kind of interesting with the popularity poll. And it is something I have seen before, but the other option was Katekyo Hitman Reborn. They've done it as well, and it was a bit boring in that case. But what they've done here is they had a vote on the top characters, but also the top antagonists, or in this case, criminals. I am talking about Noro Nogami and Aya Asia, who they won respectively the top character and top criminal within the series. I don't know whether you do this necessarily as like a dual unit, or like a character countering the other character, or even just adding Aya. I don't know. You can't see it because it's not in color, but I couldn't find the color phase in good resolution. But Neuro is actually in a different suit to what we usually see him in. It's like a tuxedo. It is actually black. It's not like the purplish color it normally is. So it'd be cool to see these two added. And yeah, like I said, the other series that did this was Katekyo Hitman Reborn. They did like top protagonists, top antagonists, but it would have been Suna and Mukuro, and we already have them, so it's a bit like, I don't know. Suna didn't always win though. Hibari won a few times, so we could have had a new Hibari, but I think, again, we had a new Hibari this year already. This would be more interesting. Neuro has not had a lot, so I think it would be fair. I think it would be reasonable. And even if we just got Aya Asia, it's alright. You know what? It's alright. But that's the end of this video. I don't know necessarily that they're going to go this route. I have a feeling it might just be a pretty standard type of like winter event or Christmas event. But you know what? It's a little bit something interesting to discuss. And if you have any thoughts of popularity poll characters you'd like to see, leave it in the comments. But that'll do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you all next time.